Gaslighting. Imagine feeling like you're losing your grip on reality because someone keeps denying things you know happened. Ever found yourself in a situation where you remember a conversation vividly, but the other person insists it never took place? That's gaslighting, a form of manipulation that makes you doubt your own memory and perception. Gaslighting starts subtly with contradictions or denials that make you question yourself. Phrases like, "you're imagining things," or "that never happened," sow seeds of doubt. Over time, this erodes your confidence and leaves you second-guessing your own reality. Victims feel confused, anxious, and paranoid. They start believing they're forgetful or overly sensitive. Gaslighting undermines trust in yourself, making you vulnerable to further manipulation. Recognize the signs. Trust your instincts and seek validation from trusted sources. Keep a record of interactions to track inconsistencies. If you suspect gaslighting, talk to a therapist to regain clarity and confidence. Guilt tripping. Picture this: feeling like you're responsible for someone else's emotions, trapped in a tug-of-war where guilt pulls at your heartstrings. Ever been in a situation where someone made you feel like everything was your fault, even when it clearly wasn't? That's guilt tripping, a manipulative tactic that uses guilt to control your actions. Guilt tripping operates by making you feel responsible for someone else's feelings or actions. It often starts subtly with statements like, "if you really cared, you would," or "you're letting me down." These phrases tug at your emotions, making you question your decisions to avoid disappointing or hurting the manipulator. Victims of guilt tripping often experience heightened anxiety and self-blame. They may constantly seek to please others at the expense of their own well-being, feeling trapped in a cycle of emotional manipulation. Recognize when guilt is being used to manipulate you. Understand that you're not responsible for someone else's emotions. Set boundaries and communicate assertively. Focus on self-care and seek support from friends, family, or a therapist if needed. Shaming. Imagine feeling like every mistake you make is magnified, with judgment hanging heavy over your every move. Ever been in a situation where someone constantly criticizes or ridicules you, making you feel inadequate or ashamed? That's shaming, a manipulative tactic that uses judgment to control your behavior. Shaming works by attacking your self-esteem and confidence. It can start subtly with comments like, "you always mess things up," or "why can't you be more like him or her?" These remarks undermine your sense of worth and make you doubt yourself. Victims of shaming often experience low self-esteem and anxiety. They may withdraw from social interactions or struggle with self-acceptance, feeling constantly judged by others. Recognize when shaming is used against you. Surround yourself with supportive people who uplift you. Practice self-compassion and challenge negative self-talk. Set boundaries with those who consistently shame you. Love bombing. Picture being showered with affection and attention, but underneath lies a subtle manipulation that's hard to resist. Have you ever met someone who seemed perfect at first, giving you endless compliments, gifts, and attention? This could be love bombing, a tactic where someone overwhelms you with affection to gain control. Love bombing starts with excessive flattery and attention. It's like being swept off your feet, but it can quickly turn suffocating. The manipulator aims to create dependency and weaken your defenses. Victims of love bombing may feel euphoric initially, but later experience confusion and insecurity. They may find it hard to trust their own feelings or judge the manipulator's true intentions. Take things slow in new relationships. Trust your instincts and maintain boundaries. If someone's affection feels overwhelming or insincere, step back and evaluate the situation carefully. Isolation. Imagine feeling isolated, cut off from friends and family as someone tightens their grip on your life. Ever had a friend or partner who discouraged you from spending time with others, leaving you feeling alone and dependent on them? That's isolation, a manipulative tactic that limits your support network to increase control. Isolation starts with subtle requests to spend more time together, which escalate into demands to cut off contact with friends and family. The manipulator wants you reliant on them for social interaction and emotional support. Victims of isolation may feel lonely, trapped, and isolated from their support systems. They may struggle with decision-making and rely heavily on the manipulator for validation and companionship. Maintain connections with friends and family. Recognize signs of isolation early, such as feeling guilty for spending time with others. Assert your need for social interaction and independence. Selective truth-telling. Imagine feeling like you're constantly walking on eggshells, unsure of what's true and what's been twisted to fit someone else's narrative. Ever found yourself in a situation where facts seem to change depending on who's telling the story? That's selective truth-telling, a manipulative tactic that distorts reality to control your perception. Selective truth-telling involves manipulating information to create a specific narrative. It can involve omitting key details, exaggerating facts, or outright lying to shape how others perceive events. Victims of selective truth-telling may struggle to trust their own judgment. They may feel confused or gaslit, questioning what's real and what's been fabricated to manipulate them. Verify information independently when possible. Trust your instincts if something doesn't add up. Keep records or notes to track inconsistencies. Communicate openly and seek clarification when in doubt. Projection. Imagine feeling constantly accused of things you didn't do, as if someone is projecting their own issues onto you. Ever been in a situation where someone blames you for behaviors or feelings that are actually their own? That's projection, a manipulative tactic where someone attributes their own thoughts, feelings, or motives onto you. Projection works by deflecting responsibility. The manipulator avoids facing their own shortcomings or insecurities by projecting them onto you. They might say things like, "You're the one who's always angry," when they're the one with anger issues. Victims of projection may feel confused or unfairly criticized. They may question their own behavior or emotions, unsure of what's true. This tactic undermines self-confidence and shifts focus away from the manipulator's own issues. Stay grounded in your own reality and emotions. Recognize when someone is projecting onto you. Set boundaries and avoid internalizing false accusations. Encourage open communication to address misunderstandings. Triangulation. Imagine being pulled into a conflict that isn't yours, where others are brought in to create tension and confusion. Picture feeling caught in a web of relationships where trust is undermined and loyalties are questioned. Triangulation is a manipulation tactic, where someone involves a third party in a relationship or conflict to manipulate emotions or gain control. It can create competition, jealousy, or dependency, causing emotional turmoil and division. Victims of triangulation may struggle with feelings of betrayal or insecurity as alliances shift and trust is eroded. It undermines healthy communication and fosters a sense of isolation, making it challenging to navigate relationships with clarity and trust. Foster direct communication and transparency in relationships to prevent manipulation through triangulation. Avoid participating in gossip or games that undermine trust. Strengthen bonds by addressing concerns openly and respecting individual boundaries. Negging. Imagine receiving compliments that don't feel quite right, like someone is subtly criticizing you under the guise of praise. Ever been complimented in a way that made you question your worth or attractiveness? That's negging, a manipulative tactic where someone gives backhanded compliments to undermine your self-esteem. Negging involves mixing praise with subtle criticism to manipulate your self-perception. It might sound like, "You're pretty for someone who doesn't wear makeup," or "You're smarter than you look." These comments aim to make you seek approval from the manipulator. Victims of negging may feel confused or insecure about their abilities or appearance. They may seek validation from the manipulator, hoping to prove themselves worthy of genuine praise. This tactic erodes self-confidence and fosters dependence. Trust your instincts if a compliment feels insincere or manipulative. Recognize negging as a form of control. Build self-esteem by focusing on your strengths and achievements. Surround yourself with supportive people who appreciate you. Silent treatment. Picture feeling ignored and isolated as someone uses silence to punish or control your behavior. Ever been in a situation where someone suddenly stops communicating with you as a form of punishment or manipulation? That's the silent treatment, a tactic where someone uses silence to gain control or avoid conflict. The silent treatment involves ignoring or withdrawing from communication to manipulate emotions or behavior. It can leave you feeling anxious, guilty, or desperate for reconciliation, giving the manipulator power over your emotions. Victims of the silent treatment may feel rejected or abandoned. They may try to appease the manipulator or blame themselves for the conflict. This tactic undermines healthy communication and fosters emotional dependency. Recognize when someone is using the silent treatment to manipulate. Avoid chasing after communication or seeking validation from the manipulator. Maintain your self-respect and boundaries. Encourage open and respectful communication in relationships.